As we said before, we're going to be conducting a webinar about Earth Day using the environment in the classroom. And we're going to be playing a Kahoot game. So if you've got Kahoot app, you can play it on your phone by using that QR code. If you want to go to kahoot.it, you can put in that game code. I'm going to move on, but don't worry, I'm going to come back to that game code a bit later, and I'll give you some more time to join it. Okay. As always, you'll receive a certificate of participation and a webinar handout. If you don't receive those, just write to me there at Formazione. I know there's been some problems getting them out to some people, but we always get them to you sooner or later. Okay. And all the information here, plus quite a few handouts for this one, and some important links, and even a link to the Kahoot that we'll be using. So you can use this Kahoot that we're using in the webinar in your own classes on Monday, if you like. I say Monday because Monday is Earth Day, okay, the 22nd of April. And we always think about issues of pollution, climate change, endangered animals, alternative energy. They're always in the headlines. And I mean, one prediction I can make is they're only going to become more important in the coming years. Okay. Teenagers, and to be honest, not just teenagers, often feel powerless in the face of this. Okay. But you can always see the amount of protests that we can see how strongly teenagers feel. You know, we used to have the I forget what it was called, the Friday for the Environment or something, okay, that students used to participate in. And so it's as you can see throughout the world, they're using English slogans and participating in English. So English is this sort of language that they can use to collaborate with people around the world, okay, to create alliances. Okay. Let us know if you've used issues related to the environment in your English classes. So in the chat, you should be able to send us a message. So let us know if you've used any of these. This isn't the first time we've done a webinar of this sort, so maybe you've used some of our materials about the environment before. Please let us know.
It's really engaging material, isn't it? Like sometimes it's hard to get the students on board in a class because they're not engaged by the topic. But as you said before, it's current, it's relevant, and it makes students feel, it lets students know that we are interested in their opinions about current issues, which is really important for like creating those bonds with our students, but also getting them engaged.
Yeah, and I mean it's something that, you know, you can't turn on the TV or look at web news or anything like that without hearing issues about the environment. And you know, I'm sure as Marina said, you know, issues of pollution, recycling, global warming, climate change, or you know, these sort of things, endangered species. I mean, of my own private students, I know a lot of them have worked on them, if not all of them have done exercises in English in their classes about it. And
It's nice to do reducing the use of plastic because that's something they can go away and do immediately as well. It's something they can take home and talk about with other family members and put into practice in their home.
exactly. Okay. Anyway, during this webinar, we're going to be talking about identifying and explaining new vocabulary regarding the environment. Okay. You should be able to incorporate environmental issues into your English classes. And we're also going to have a little bit of look at CLIL, particularly in physics and geography. We've had a few requests for lessons on or doing webinars on CLIL, and we thought, you know, we've done one particularly on CLIL. We might repeat that sometimes, but I think we try to also incorporate elements of CLIL into the appropriate topics in these webinars too. Okay. And obviously we always try to focus on speaking and obviously writing in the sort of productive skills. So you can incorporate issues of the environment in that. And, you know, I know from having guided a lot of students through Cambridge exams, and Kathy is a Cambridge examiner, we all know how much the environment figures in these particularly in levels B2, C1, I am yet to see an exam that doesn't have some sort of element, whether it's in the speaking or the writing or the reading and use of English part or the listening itself, okay, about the environment. So I think they're all going to be useful language. Okay. And as we do sometimes, I'm going to finish off a little bit with some topics about literature about pollution and the environment for a book that many students study in their last years at university, at school, okay, in their English classes. So it might be a familiar one. If you want to guess what it is, maybe you can put it in the chat. Okay. Anyway, what we might do is start this. Actually, I'll change screens. And so if you want to participate in our Kahoot quiz, just one moment and I'll share my other screen. Okay, so we've got some people already joined. I'll give us another minute. Okay, so some more people can join. Please join if you want. If you are having problems joining, feel free to put your answers in the chat, although it's always more fun if you can do it through Kahoot because they come up on time. You'll see your points and things like that. Okay.
And there's the element of competition, of course.
Exactly. Okay. I don't know if we've got any prizes, but we'll see what we can do. Okay. Have a visit by Greta Thunberg. Okay, a few people are joining, so I'll leave it for a little longer. Okay. And we'll get people joining and then we can go. As I did mention before, in the handout, we'll give you this the link to this quiz. And so you can play it. You'll just need to create a account. Well, if you're playing with us, you already have an account. And you can run this with your own students. Doesn't cost. Kahoot up to 40 players, I think, is free. Okay, so you should be able to play it with your class and give them a lot of interesting vocabulary and have a fun way to do it. Okay. Look, I think we might.
I'm liking the names. We've got quite creative with some of the names.
Exactly. Okay.
I'm backing to win.
I'm okay, team okay. Okay. Yeah, great. And okay. Anyway, look, we might get going because I don't want to waste your time. Okay, so if you haven't joined, I think you might even still be able to join. I won't lock the game. Okay. Um, so we'll start. And as I said, if you haven't managed to join, feel free to play in the chat. Okay. Okay. So environment in the classroom. Okay, let's start going. Okay, how much plastic is there in the ocean? Okay, so we have 50 billion tons, 1 million tons, 8 million tons, or 80 million tons. Okay. You just need to press on your screen, okay, which one you think is correct.
Got some answers coming in via the chat as well.
Okay, so only one person got that correct, so it's 8 million tons. Okay. So let's see. Okay, hang on a second. Okay. Okay, so Lulu came in first with the correct answer. So remember that when you play this Kahoot game, it's important the time and correction. So you don't get points if you don't get one correct, but you get more points if you get the correct one earlier. So don't hesitate. Let's play a true and false. Lithuania has the best recycling system rate in Europe. True or false? Easy one here. So we count down until either everyone's put in an answer or the time runs out. Oh, most people got it correct there. Yes, it is true. Okay, let's see. Okay, Lulu's still holding the lead. Okay, but
Racing ahead.
is coming up. Okay. Okay. Remember that if you're not in yet, you can still join. I haven't locked the game. Okay. Which of the following is a greenhouse gas? Oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, or hydrogen? Easy one here, I'm sure. Okay, time's out. Okay, good to know that almost everyone got that correct. Carbon dioxide, or CO2, is a greenhouse gas. Not the only greenhouse gas, but probably the most common. Oh, Lulu's dropped off and Ur's taken the lead. Okay. Okay, complete the sentences. Sentence. One of the most important issues facing humans is climate change. Are we using an article the, an, or is there nothing? In the sense that we just say it without anything. So we put in a few grammar questions here, vocabulary, not just knowledge. Okay, most people got that, well, a few people got it correct, but more people got it incorrect. Okay, good thing there that we don't use the article generally when we talk about these general concepts in English. Okay, things like climate change. We do use it for the environment, but not for climate change.
Say the problem with climate change.
Yeah, if you're talking about particular things, but if you're talking about general problems, generally we don't use it. Okay. Oh, Lulu's back.
Oh, she's back.
Wow.
She's back again.
What you can do with a quick response, quick correct response. Okay. Okay, complete the sentence. Protecting environment is every human's responsibility. The, nothing, or an. If you listen to me carefully, I might.
Yeah, I think you gave
I
this
know
one
what
away,
that
didn't you? You were modeling the language.
is. Okay, almost everyone was listening to me, so that's good to know. Okay. Or maybe you just knew this yourself. So very well done. We use the article with environment. I think the rule there would probably be that it's the only thing we're talking about one. Okay. So when we talk about things like the environment, the earth, the sun, the moon, okay, we're talking about things that are one. Okay. If we had more moons on the earth, I guess we wouldn't say the moon, we'd say a moon. Okay. But not something we need to worry about. Okay. Oh, shifting around again. Okay. Uh Leah is on the winning streak. Okay, so let's have a look. Coming up to the sixth question. So, such as tigers, which face a real threat of extinction. So again, and question about articles. Very common errors with students here. A bit of interference with Italian, I think, some of these articles. So they need a few repetition, a bit of repetition of this can really clear up a lot of these easy errors.
And great way just to get them thinking about it. They will think about it if they're in competition with each other. And then you can have them find the rule or ask each other about what that rule could be. What is the pattern?
Exactly. And it's something that's going to come up when you're talking about the environment because you're going to be talking about endangered animals, which we don't use the article for because we're talking about animals in
Group.
general, okay? Not specific tigers. But then, when we talk about the environment, we are talking about a specific thing or the only thing. They are still holding on with 4 correct. Okay, very good. Okay, coming up to the 7th. Twister is a synonym of tornado. True or false? So the word twister also means tornado. Is that true or do they have a different meaning?
Not sure about this one myself. Get down to the specifics. I would need to be in one of these geography classes.
I believe it is true. Okay. I think Twister is a little bit more informal and quite commonly used in America.
Mm.
So it's just another form of tornado, I believe. Okay. What you can also do with these quizzes, if I remember, you can take this quiz, copy it onto your page, and you can add or change questions. So, if you want to add any other questions, things like that, it's these things as if you copy them, you can make them your own. So they're really good fun.
And as Josh was saying before, we have this Kahoot in the handout that you'll get
Mm.
in the next few days.
What's the hottest temperature recorded on Earth?
In Brazil the other day, it felt like 60 degrees because of humidity.
I don't know if anyone saw the rain in Dubai the other day.
Mm.
Flooded. Yeah. Okay. So it was 56.7. Okay. The highest of them. Okay. Amazing. Okay. Don't know where that was, but I wouldn't want to be there. Okay.
Oh,
Lulu's.
here comes R, who I was backing with 5 correct answers in a row.
Wow.
Good
Well
to see
done.
her. Good to
Okay.
see R on the scoreboard.
Well done. Okay. Second last one. What kind of extreme weather can be seen here in this picture? Is it a blizzard? Is it a whiteout? Is it a snowstorm? Or is it snowy? Okay, this is an interesting one because here actually 3 of them were correct. So this is another thing you can do on Kahoot is you can actually signal multiple ones. So if you chose any of those first 3, you would have got a point. Okay, snowy, even though it was snowy, it wasn't counted as extreme weather there. Okay. Um, Last question. Oh, we'll have a look at the scoreboard. Okay. So if you get in correct and very fast, you might be able to beat Lulu. Okay. So she's not home and safe yet. Deforestation is the process of planting trees. True or false? Ooh, a lot of people coming in.
Oh, got some fast answers going in there.
One other thing to mention is Kahoots. There's a lot of them. You don't have to make your own. There's a lot of them that you can just find. You can search like Google for them. Okay. Very good. Almost everyone got that correct. Okay. It's not planting, it's actually cutting them down, okay, as we'd say. Okay. Let's see the winner. In third place is Elena. In second place, Lena. And in first place is Lulu. Well done. Kept the lead for most of the game there. Okay.
Mhm.
Congratulations, and Ellen and R as runners up. Okay. Let me just stop sharing here.
Nice. I think that's a really nice way to introduce a lesson. You know, it gets students involved. It adds kind of a bit of joy to the beginning of a lesson.
Yeah. Hang on a second. Let me just make sure we join from the right part. Okay. So yeah, I think as you can see, if you've never played Kahoots before, you can see that they're really a fun thing to do with your students. And whether you use this one or whether you're going to use another, that either you create or that you can find, as I was saying, you can basically get onto Kahoot and Google them. Just be a little careful, obviously worth checking them before to make sure they're appropriate and that they are correct. Okay. Our one, I can guarantee is correct. Okay.
Mhm.
Continuing on, I thought we'd look a little bit about CLIL physics. Okay, so energy sources. Okay, we've made a handout that looks at renewable energy sources and includes a listening comprehension exercise. So that'll be in the handout for you. Okay, looks at conjunctions to help them better present an argument as part of a discussion, which could be an example of B2 for speaking practice. Okay. As we mentioned earlier, Cambridge exams often cover issues of the environment. And so it's going to be really helpful for them to be familiar with this. So we've got these some questions there that could be questions in the speaking. Okay. Probably things that would be in maybe part 4. Is that correct, Kathy? I think part 4 of the speaking exam, where they sort of try to get the students to have a discussion on a sort of issue
Yeah,
about
exactly,
social
exactly.
issues.
As you were saying, it could come up in the listening or the reading too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's always, I mean, any of these topics that are relevant and have different points of view, they are ideal for speaking or writing activities. Okay. And any other things reading as well. Okay. So we've got some questions there that could be really good to get your students talking about. And we've got a handout that includes those. So we have some of these, you can see the worksheet on the right. Okay. So you can have cause and effect. So we're talking about if, okay, we're talking about so and because. We have contrast with but, okay, although or while. And in addition, we have and, obviously. Okay. We have some sentences to correct there. Okay. Sometimes they're correct, sometimes they're not. Okay. Again,
Nice thing about getting them to talk about these topics that they're often, really interested in is it gets them really listening to each other and responding to each other. And that's a huge thing with the B2 and the C1 speaking exam is when they're in that part 4 of the speaking, that they're listening to each other and responding appropriately. So here, when they're having that conversation in groups or in pairs, they're also practicing that, which is a huge part of it.
yeah, it gives them a topic that they can talk about that, I think you don't have to be an expert to be informed a bit about climate change and green energies and things like that. You'd be surprised about how much they know and how they've heard about things like that. Okay. And it's not an issue that only has one point of view. Okay. So it allows them to have a discussion like we often talk about, it's a chance for the teacher to maybe take a step back and let the students do a bit of peer learning, peer correction, okay? So they can use their own how can I say, use each other as a resource. Okay?
Mhm.
So that's there. I'm going to have a little bit of a look at CLIL geography. Okay, we're going to watch a video. Okay, and it's this one might be a bit for younger students, but could be fun anyway. Okay, let's have a look first, and then we'll go on and talk about how it could be used.
I'm not getting the sound through.
Thank you for tuning into.
Okay,
Can
cool.
you hear the audio? No. Can you hear it?
I could hear it. I could hear it there for a second. Yeah.
Okay.
Maple Leaf's
Oh,
worldwide
yeah.
weather report.
Let me just-
We'll be checking on the weather all over the world with Tim Tiger. First, Canada. How's the weather?
It's snowy. It's snowy in Canada.
Thank you, Tim. Next, Mexico. Tim, how's the weather?
It's sunny. It's sunny in Mexico.
Thank you, Tim. Next, England. Tim, how's the weather?
It's foggy. It's foggy in England.
Thank you, Tim. Next, France. Tim, how's the weather?
It's rainy. It's rainy in France. Oh.
Thank you, Tim. Next, Russia. Tim, how's the weather?
It's cold. It's cold in Russia.
Thank you, Tim. Next, Australia. Tim, how's the weather?
Hold on. Ah, ah, I'm coming. Ah! It's hot. It's hot in Australia.
Are you okay, Tim?
Ah, I'm good, Marty. What's next?
Next is Japan.
Japan? All right.
Next is Japan. Tim, how's the weather in Japan? Tim?
I'm coming.
Tim?
Oh, I'm on my way.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm almost there.
Hmm.
Ah, it's cloudy. Ah, ah, ah. It's cloudy in Japan.
Thank you, Tim.
Oh,
Next is Mars.
Mars?
Yes, Mars.
No, Marty. I quit.
Well, thank you for tuning in to Maple Leaf's Worldwide Weather. See you next time.
Okay, a little fun one there, probably for low-level students, but might be a nice introduction. Okay. There's other videos you can look at too that can give you some ideas of weather reports and using the vocabulary there. So it could be really interesting. We've looked in other webinars about using news in the classroom. We've talked about doing news reports. Could be fun to integrate this as well in there too. So just like you have the news at the beginning, maybe the sports, and then finishing off with the news with the weather report. Okay, so it could be really fun. Okay, got a handout there to help you with that sort of vocabulary there.
It'd be nice to get them to reenact it. You
Yeah.
could see how much they could remember and get them to reenact it. You could get one person to ask the question and the other one to respond with the correct answer.
See if they remember what the weather was like in different places in that video too. Could be fun.
You could give them different places, like just cities, the capital cities of Europe, and they have to make one just with the capital cities of Europe, if
And I
that's what
mean,
they were sitting
everyone's
at the
got,
time.
everyone's got devices in their pocket, so you could get them to Google the weather in different locations, okay? And they could each do a report on it, and even looking at the weather ahead coming up at the weekend or something like that could be good fun, okay? Particularly using futures, will, maybe going to, okay, for the future coming up, okay? Got also some things about more extreme weather, okay? So in the handouts, you can get your students to tell you if they know any extreme weather they know. So, example, drought or floods. Some of these are also the pronunciation can be quite difficult for them. Drought, flood. I've corrected many students about that. Okay. So we'll have a look at the video here, and the students can make notes about any of those they see. Okay.
The typical climate here in the UK is mild, and we have 4 distinct seasons. The UK is prone to extreme weather, maybe not as extreme as other parts of the world. However, flash flooding and cold spells are all common in the UK. With a changing climate, more and more people are being affected by extreme weather. For example, forest fires in California, flooding in Mozambique, and heat waves in Southeast Asia. It's getting warmer, sea levels rising, and rainfall patterns are changing. Extreme weather can be devastating. This is why we develop technologies to help communities access severe weather warnings, where we can inform the public of any extreme weather. Good forecasting means that we can warn these communities to plan and respond, as well as helping organisations and emergency responders across the world to plan and take action to help keep communities safe. Climate change will have an effect on extremes all over the world, so we have to be prepared.
Okay, so something that could be useful here. Okay, so they could students could research each example, okay, come up with a weather report, not just a realistic weather report, but something maybe, using some of these more extreme ones, flooding, blizzards, drought, stuff like that. So prepare yourself for gale force winds and don't be surprised to see a cow fly by. Really will be that windy. Okay. They could present it to the class. Okay. Alternatively, they could make a project on one of these, so they could look at the causes, the effects, the places where these are more common, okay, and maybe how these areas prepare themselves for them. Okay, so in very cold areas, what sort of insulation do they have? Do they, in certain parts of America, I know they have things to try to protect themselves from tornadoes. So these sort of things could be a project to look into that. And again, it's going to be really useful vocabulary that they can they'll be seeing. I mean, as I said, I was watching just today pictures of the floods in Dubai, okay? Record rainfall in Dubai,
Mm.
cars floating down the street, things like this. Okay. Anyway, moving on, I want to finish up with a look at Charles Dickens' book Hard Times, a book that I know is quite commonly studied in the last 2 years of high school in Italy, in Liceo. And so it's could be possibly one of the strongest indictments seen in Italian English literature syllabuses of the impact of pollution. Okay, comes from a book. We might not think of pollution as something that dates back so far, but this was published back in 1854. Okay, it was Charles Dickens' 10th novel, and it's many things. So you can look at it as a critique of utilitarianism, a defense of the sort of creative humanistic mind. That is what Dickens wanted to emphasize against this sort of Victorian idea of rote learning, impassionate facts. Okay. It's also got very strong criticisms of exploitative employment practices, obviously coming in the middle to the late periods of the Industrial Revolution. Okay. One of the strongest passages comes at the beginning of chapter 5. In this, the town in which the novel is set, this is Coketown. Okay, it's describes the setting, the inhabitants as well. Okay, and Dickens, who started out very much as a comic writer, and always has comic elements in his books. Okay, he is very scathing, very very severe, describing Coketown, a northern industrial town, possibly based on Manchester or Preston. Excuse me a moment.
It's a very emotive piece of text. We'll have a look at it soon, but I think a nice thing once we have a look at it, you'll see is to have the students imagine what that town would look like and perhaps even draw the town.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I mean, it's not there is no town as far as I know called Coketown in the UK, but Dickens did travel up throughout the northern industrial towns of this.
Yeah, I think it's a byproduct, coke of coal production.
Exactly, very much. Okay. Anyway, we'll have a look at this quickly, and then we'll look at a little bit of an analysis of it later. Okay. It was a town of red brick, or of brick that would have been red if the smoke and ashes had allowed it. But as matters stood, it was a town of unnatural red and brick, like the painted face of a savage. It was a town of machinery and tall chimneys, out of which interminable serpents of smoke trailed themselves for ever and ever, and never got uncoiled. It had a black canal in it, and a river that ran purple with ill-smelling dye, and vast piles of building full of windows where there was a rattling and trembling all day long, and where the piston of the steam engine worked monotonously up and down, like the head of an elephant in a state of melancholy madness. It contains several large streets, all very like one another, and many small streets, still more like one another, inhabited by people equally like one another, who all went in and out at the same hours, with the same sound upon the same pavements, to do the same work, and to whom every day was the same as yesterday and tomorrow, and every year the counterpart of the last and the next. In the handout, I've given you a little bit of information about this, okay? Some things to consider about this passage. As you can see, I've marked it there, okay? As always, Dickens names his towns like he names his characters, so he pays a lot of attention to the naming of the characters. You might remember there's a character in here called Gradgrind, who's the headmaster who treats the education of children as like producing products in a factory. Okay, and here we have Coketown. Okay, so in reference to coke, which is that sort of form of refined coal used in the furnaces. Okay, we're not talking about Coca-Cola here. Okay, a bit before that, I think. Okay, he draws on these similes and metaphors. So in red, I've marked those sort of similes and metaphors where he likens things to savages, snakes, mad elephants. So he's sort of thinking of some sort of industrial jungle, okay? Some sort of with the threatening aspect of violence or subdued violence there, okay? In yellow, I've signaled all the words that have some sort of, or the expressions too, that have some sort of repetition element. Okay, so we have this repetition of it was a town. Okay, we have repetition of red, black, streets, like one another, same, same, same. So again, trying to emphasize this sort of monotonous appearance of the town and how the town itself creates the people that live in there to be products, and so not differentiated from one another. Okay, and underlined here the visual elements, the way that he uses metaphors of sound, or not just metaphors, but descriptions of smells, sounds, movements, and felt sensations. So he's talking about a serpent, smoke serpent being uncoiled. We have ills, so we can smell it, we can hear it, we can see it. Okay, so all of these elements, he's trying to get you involved in it. So it's a great writer like Dickens really draws you into that, and so it's a good way of something that students might have done with something in their own language, but they might not have had a close analysis of this sort of text in a different language, in English, and so they can sort of see how this works together. And you know, after having seen that, they can sort of appreciate how this sort of works, and you know, maybe use this sort of these elements in their own writing. If they're writing, for example, B1 or B2 level, you often have to write a story if you're doing the 4 schools exams at Cambridge level. Or
it would be great to make a comparison with some of the issues we currently have with climate change, and have them describe somewhere in what it's like now using some of this language.
exactly, they could make their own metaphors about these, you know. So, you know, this could be incorporated even with the weather report, you know, those sort of things, these sort of metaphors of well, certainly of color, but metaphors of danger or jungles and things like that we often use to describe sort of extreme weather. So for sure, I mean, you know, I've heard so many times hurricanes or strong winds described in terms of vicious animals or things like this. So these sort of things, you could set them at it. They could describe maybe a place they've been to or a town they've visited in same sort of ways. You know, maybe they've been to industrial towns themselves, or places that have suffered pollution. Anyway, just concluding, okay, as we mentioned earlier, this is a topic to get students involved, okay, whether they are involved really in climate change activism, or whether they sympathize with the wild animals, or whether they just want they're worried about having clean beaches. Okay. Everyone has different ideas, and the solutions are not clear, but a debate. We looked recently about in-class debates, and I believe that webinar just went up. I think it might even be yesterday onto our YouTube page. So if you missed our webinar on in-class debates, you can have a look at it there, and you can incorporate these sort of topics. They're always a great one for and against, or not necessarily for against, but trying to find solutions, or what are the main issues. Okay. As we mentioned before, B2, C1, writing and speaking particularly emphasize these, and all the other parts of the exam as well. Okay, but the production is often important. If they're familiar with these sort of terms, they'll have a lot more ability to write a good essay, or write an article, or things like this. Okay, or even a letter in the writing, and the speaking is often focused on these sort of topics. Okay. Just an idea is also that Greta Thunberg, a non-native speaker, is, however, even when she was young, had a very strong command of English, and so whatever you think about her, it does show what a good command of English can really do. Okay, and allow you to move on to the world stage. Okay. Or some other ideas are sort of brainstorming, some task-based learning. I know in the books that Kathy designs for our students online and in our centres, she often uses themes of the environment, okay, and pollution, recycling, things like that. Okay. Songs, videos, news items. I think you'll see in other webinars we've talked about, this theme comes up again and again, okay, and it's always a great topic to talk about. Okay. Anyway, let us know in the chat if you've got any suggestions for future webinars. Okay, we're always on the lookout for new ones. We've got a few coming up in the future that we've got planned, but we've got a few spaces before we take a break for summer that we will still put some new topics in. So please let us know. Okay. Everyone says citizenship, so that could be a good idea. I'll make a note of that. Thanks a lot for your attention, and thanks for participating, particularly in the Kahoot. Okay, you will receive your certificate of participation. We generally send it out about lunchtime tomorrow. Okay, so if you don't receive it by then, first have a look in your spam folder. It often ends up there, but please contact me at Formazione and I'll get it to you, and the handout there. Okay. Next Thursday is a public holiday. I think it's Liberation Day in Italy. So we're going to take a break for next week, but in 2 weeks we'll be back talking about teaching idioms. Okay, really fun webinar where we've got a lot of new expressions. Always fun to teach and to talk about expressions, because they are, they're so creative often. So please join us again then. Okay? Thanks a lot, Kathy.
Thank you all for your
Okay.
participation. It's been great. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone. Okay. Bye.